Night patrols in Yellowstone are different from daytime patrols in ways most people never understand. During the day, the park feels alive. Tourists, wildlife, wind through the trees. At night, everything changes. The darkness feels heavier. The silence stretches longer, and every sound carries farther than it should. On this particular night, the patrol was routine. Clear weather, no visitor activity, no alerts from dispatch, just miles of forest and an empty road. At 1:17 a.m., the radio activated on its own. Not static, not interference. A clear, controlled voice came through. Unit 12, respond, code black. Repeat, code black. The words didn't make sense. Code black hasn't been used in years. It was quietly retired after a series of incidents that were never fully explained to the public. New rangers aren't trained on it. It doesn't appear in manuals anymore. And yet, the voice said it perfectly. Calm, professional, exact. What made it worse was the signal location. The transmission originated from Zone R17, a restricted area. No trails, no campsites, no patrol routes. Rangers are not assigned there, especially not after dark. I contacted dispatch immediately. No record of the call, no alerts, no system logs. As far as they were concerned, nothing had happened. Before I could respond again, the radio crackled. The same voice returned. Same tone, same cadence, same words. Unit 12, respond, code black. That's when the unease set in. Radio interference doesn't repeat messages perfectly, and it doesn't use retired emergency codes. I answered back. No response. The forest around me grew unnaturally quiet. No insects, no wind, no distant animal movement. Just silence. Then the radio activated again. This time the voice changed. Lower, slower. Unit 12, confirm position. My call sign. That wasn't possible. Only dispatch had that information. I checked my GPS. Signal strong, location accurate. But the radio display showed something that made my stomach drop. The transmission source was less than half a mile away, inside the forest. I followed protocol and moved closer, keeping the vehicle slow and controlled. As I approached the edge of the restricted zone, the radio came alive again. You're not supposed to hear this. Every instinct said to stop. Instead, I shut the engine off and listened. The radio stayed silent for nearly a full minute. Then, suddenly, Unit 12, stand by. The voice now sounded distorted, almost like it was passing through something old, something damaged. I powered the radio off. It turned itself back on. Same message, same location. At that moment, the GPS flickered briefly, showing my position inside Zone R17, even though the vehicle hadn't moved. I requested backup. By the time another unit arrived, the transmission stopped completely. No static, no signal, nothing. A full search of the area found no equipment, no personnel, no trace of a transmitter. The incident was written up as radio interference caused by terrain conditions. But the audio recording told a different story. It was removed from the system before sunrise. By morning, Zone R17 was reclassified. New restrictions, no access, no explanation. And the radio. It's never transmitted that code again. Hello, friends. Did you know that nearly 80% of those who watch my videos aren't subscribed? If you enjoy the content, I'd truly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot. Also, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your interaction not only supports the channel's growth, but also helps these stories reach more people. Thank you all for being here. By the way, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. Now, let's get started. 1 second, the snowmobile was 50 feet ahead of me. Next second, it was gone. Just gone, like the ground swallowed it, which is exactly what happened. A perfectly circular hole in the snowpack, 8 feet across. Where solid trail had been 30 seconds before, my colleague Dale and his machine have just gone, dropped into whatever was underneath, into whatever Yellowstone hides beneath its frozen surface. I'm Boone Ryder, Winter Patrol Ranger, and what I found when I rappelled into that hole changed everything I thought I knew about Yellowstone, about survival, about what 11 months underground does to a human mind. Let me be straight with you. I'm not a storyteller. I'm a ranger. I deal in facts, incident reports, documented observations, chain of custody. I write things down because accuracy matters, because what happened needs to be recorded correctly, because the truth of what's in that cavern underneath the Continental Divide snowmobile route needs to be understood by people who make decisions about Yellowstone's future. So I'm going to tell you exactly what happened, exactly what I found, exactly what was down there, and you can decide what to do with it. February 8th, 2024. I'm leading a guided snowmobile tour. 8 visitors plus me. Standard winter patrol route, Continental Divide Trail. Heavy snowpack this year, record accumulation. We'd had 3 weeks of continuous snowfall, followed by a warm spell, followed by another freeze. Creates unstable conditions. Creates a layered snowpack with weak internal structures. Creates exactly the conditions that make Yellowstone's thermal features dangerous. Because Yellowstone isn't just a park, it's a supervolcano. Active geothermal system. Hot springs, fumaroles, and mud pots, and geysers everywhere. And in winter, the heat from those features can melt snow from underneath, can create hollow spaces, can build false floors of ice over steaming voids, can make a solid-looking trail into death traps. I know all this, knew all this before February 8th, but knowing and seeing are different things, and I'd never seen it happen, never watched the trail disappear, never witnessed the ground simply consume a person and a machine. Dale Norris was riding point, my colleague. 14 years with Yellowstone Winter Patrol. Experienced. Careful. Safe rider. He was 50 feet ahead of the group, standard lead distance, checking conditions before the group followed. That's protocol. Lead rider assesses. If the lead rider makes it through, the group follows. Dale made it through. Or almost made it through. He was past the section when it happened, when the trail behind him collapsed, when the snow gave way. When the false floor failed. When 8 feet of circular void opened up exactly where he'd just passed. Except he hadn't quite cleared it. His rear track caught the edge that was already compromised, already weakened by his passage over the hollow below, the edge that couldn't support the additional stress, the edge that gave way. Taking his machine, taking Dale, swallowing both. 1 second, 50 feet ahead, visible, present, solid. Next second, gone. The hole was perfect, almost geometrically perfect. 8 feet in diameter, circular, clean edges, like something had punched through from below, like something had pushed up against the false floor until it gave, like the earth had opened its mouth and taken what was above. I stopped the group. Standard emergency protocol. Everyone stop. Do not move forward. Stay on your machines. This is an emergency. I dismounted carefully, tested the snow around me with my pole before each step, moving toward the hole, slowly, carefully, aware that the same thermal feature that swallowed Dale might extend further, might undermine more trail, might take me too if I wasn't careful. I reached the edge, looked down. The hole was deep, maybe 40 feet based on visual estimation. The walls were ice and rock and compressed snow, natural tunnel created by geothermal heating and water flow. At the bottom, dimly visible, a ledge. And on the ledge, something. Movement. Something alive down there. Dale, can you hear me? A voice. Muffled. Distant. But there. Responsive. Boone. I am down here. I am okay. My leg is hurt, but I am okay. Alive. Injured, but alive. On a ledge. 40 feet down. In a geothermal cavern that Yellowstone had been hiding beneath its snow-covered trail. I called it in, reported the incident, requested emergency response, rope rescue team, medical support, supervisor notification, full incident activation, the works, standard mass casualty protocol, even though the current count was 1 injured. Then I did something that wasn't protocol but was necessary. I looked more carefully at the hole, at the edges, at the walls, at what was visible below, and I saw things that made me want to get down there faster than the rescue team could arrive. The walls of the hole showed thermal activity, steam, rising from below, warm air. I could feel it even 40 feet above, rising through the shaft. Hot spring. Active geothermal feature. Dale was on a ledge in a geothermal cavern with an active hot spring, and I needed to know if that spring was stable, if the temperature was survivable, if the ledge was solid, if he had time to wait for the rescue team, or if I needed to get to him now. And there was something else, something that took me a moment to process, something at the edge of the ledge, barely visible in the steam and shadow. Something that wasn't Dale, something that wasn't the snowmobile wreckage, something separate, apart, watching, a figure, another person, already down there. Before Dale fell, I rigged my own rope, not waiting for the rescue team, explaining to the group that they needed to stay put, explaining that someone was injured and I was going to assist, explaining that under no circumstances were they to approach the hole or follow me, explaining that help was coming and their job was to wait for it. Then I rappelled down, into Yellowstone's hidden interior, into the geothermal cavern that the Continental Divide Trail had been built over without anyone knowing, into the space below the false floor that had looked like solid ground from every angle above. The descent was 38 feet. I measured the rope. Every foot felt like more, like the distance was expanding, like the hole was deeper than it looked, like the earth was stretching as I descended, The walls were ice near the top, shifting to bare rock as I got deeper. The rock was warm to the touch, noticeably warmer than the air above. Confirmation of active thermal system. Confirmation of geothermal heating. Confirmation that I was descending into Yellowstone's living geology. The steam thickened as I dropped. Visibility decreased. The bottom resolved from dim shapes into actual detail. A ledge, natural rock shelf, maybe 12 feet wide, 15 feet long. Adequate space, not comfortable but survivable. The hot spring was off to the left. I could hear it before I could see it. Bubbling, gentle, not geyser violent, but definitely active, definitely thermal, definitely part of whatever system had created this cavern and destroyed the false floor above. Dale was there, sitting against the far wall, right leg extended, visibly wrong. The angle wasn't right, something fractured below the knee, probably not life-threatening, but seriously painful and definitely mobility limiting. He'd managed to pull himself away from the snowmobile wreckage, which was scattered across the ledge. The machine was destroyed, frame bent, track torn, engine exposed, not going anywhere on its own. Neither was Dale until we got him out. Boone. His voice was steady, controlled. Dale's a professional. Pain didn't break his voice. Glad to see you. What's your status? Tell me everything. Right tibia. I think it's fractured, not compound. Hurts like hell, but no bone through skin. Head's okay, no LOC. Chest is sore, probably cracked ribs from impact, but breathing is normal. I'm functional except for the leg. Okay, I'm going to splint that leg. You're going to be fine. The rescue team is 20 minutes out. We'll have you up. Boone. His voice shifted, dropped, got quieter, got careful. We're not alone down here. I turned. The figure I'd seen from above was closer now, had moved while I was focused on Dale, was standing at the edge of the light, at the boundary between the illuminated ledge and the dark passages that led deeper into the cavern system. Watching us. Male. That much was clear. Beyond that, everything was wrong. The clothing was destroyed. What had once been quality backcountry ski gear was now rags, shredded, patched with what looked like strips of fabric from a sleeping bag. Boots were wrapped in additional material. Insulation improvised from whatever was available. Face was obscured by a beard that had grown unchecked for what looked like many months. Hair was long, matted. Eyes were the clearest thing about him. Sharp, alert, intelligent, but wrong. Not the eyes of someone well, not the eyes of someone who'd been in normal human society recently. He was watching me with an expression I didn't have a word for. Not hostile, not welcoming, evaluating, like he was deciding something, like my presence required assessment before response.
"Who are you?" I asked, keeping my voice level, neutral, non-threatening, using the tone I use when I'm uncertain about a situation and need more information before I can classify it. My name is Boone Ryder. I'm a ranger with Yellowstone National Park. I'm here to help. Silence. He didn't move. Didn't respond immediately, just kept evaluating. Then, "I know what you are." His voice was rough, damaged by disuse or by the sulfurous air, or by both. "You're from up there, surface world," said like it was a different realm, like up there and down here were distinct territories with different rules. "You came down through the mouth, through the hole in the snow, yes. My colleague fell through. I came to help him. He fell." The man's eyes moved to Dale, not with sympathy, with something else. Recognition, maybe. "Like I fell. The mountain opens its mouth and takes you. That's how you get chosen. What's your name? Pause. Long pause. Like the question required retrieval from somewhere deep. Like the answer had been unused long enough to require effort. Perry. Perry Watts. I knew that name. Not immediately. Had to search. But it was there in my memory somewhere. Perry Watts. Backcountry skier. Reported missing. When? Last year. Last winter. I couldn't pull the exact date without checking records, but I knew the case. Yellowstone backcountry. February or March 2023. Solo skier. Never returned. Search conducted. No evidence found. Presumed dead. Case archived. That was almost exactly 11 months ago. Perry Watts had been in this cavern for 11 months. Perry. I kept my voice completely steady, completely calm, because this situation required maximum care, required absolute control of my own reactions, required understanding before any action. Perry, we can get you out, both you and my colleague. I have rope. I have people above. We can take you up. I'm not leaving, he said. Perry, this is mine. This place. I've learned it. I know every passage, every vent, every spring. I know where the warm air comes from and where the cold pockets are, and how to read the pressure changes and what the sounds mean. 11 months. I've learned this place in a way no one else knows it. It's mine. I'm its. We belong to each other. This is a geothermal cavern. It's part of Yellowstone National Park. It's the Earth's interior, the Earth's breath. You can't own the Earth's breath. But you can't own the Earth's breath. But you can learn to understand it. I understand it. Do you? He tilted his head, eyes sharp, direct. Do you know what the Earth is saying right now? Can you hear it? The thermal system, the sounds it was making. I'd been filtering them out. Background noise, but now I listened, and yes, there were sounds. The bubbling of the spring, the hiss of steam through rock fissures, and something else, lower, deeper, a vibration more felt than heard, pressure somewhere in the system, movement, activity. Perry, I need to help my colleague. His leg is fractured. He needs medical attention. Then we can talk about you, about getting you out, about, he stays, you go. Perry's voice was still calm, but had acquired an edge. Take your rope, go back up, come back with supplies, come back with food, come back with what I need to stay. But he stays. He was given to me, in the same way I was given. The mountain chose him. He's mine now. Dale's voice, carefully neutral. Boone, he's been saying that since I landed. Keeps talking about being chosen, about gifts. From the mountain. He's not a gift, I said to Perry. Directly, clearly, without aggression, but without ambiguity. He's an injured park ranger who needs medical care. He's my colleague. He's going up with me. Perry moved, fast for someone who'd been in a cave for 11 months. Fast and purposeful. He crossed the ledge and grabbed my rope. The rope I'd rappelled down on. The rope was my connection to the surface. The rope was also Dale's only exit from the cavern. He had a knife. Where he'd gotten it, I didn't know. But it was real. And he held it against the rope with a steadiness that suggested absolute seriousness. Not theatrical, not a bluff, a statement, a boundary, a demonstration that he controlled this space and everything in it. Go up, he said, without him, or I cut the rope and neither of you goes up. I've had training in crisis negotiation. Every law enforcement ranger does, but training is in the classroom. Training is role play with colleagues who know the scenario ends at lunch. Training doesn't fully prepare you for standing 40 feet underground with a fractured leg colleague and a feral human being holding a knife to your only exit rope. But training gives you principles, and principles work if you apply them. First principle: don't escalate. Don't match aggression with aggression. Don't create a crisis where you can avoid it. Second principle: gather information. Understand the person. Understand their motivation. Understand what they need. Third principle: find common ground. Find the thing you both care about. Build the bridge on that thing. Okay, Perry. Hands open. Non-threatening posture. Calm voice. Tell me about this place. Tell me what you've learned. He looked at me, evaluating again. Surprised maybe. Expecting an argument. Expecting force and getting interest instead. You want to know? I'm a ranger. Understanding Yellowstone is literally my job. You've been studying this system for 11 months. No researcher has had that access. No scientist has been down here. You've seen things no one else has seen. I genuinely want to know what you found. The knife didn't move away from the rope, but something else moved. Something in Perry's expression, like a window opening, like light finding a crack, like the part of him that was still a scientist, still a researcher, still the person who'd come to Yellowstone with skills and curiosity. Like that part recognized an audience, recognized someone asking real questions, recognized genuine interest. The venting system, he said. This cavern connects to a network. I've mapped it. Every passage, every vent, every spring. He moved toward the far wall. The dark passages lead deeper. There are 7 major passages. 3 connect to thermal vents that feed from the primary magma chamber system. 2 connect to the secondary system under the plateau. The remaining 2 connect upward to surface features. One of those is the geyser field south of Old Faithful. I can show you. I've documented everything. He reached into the shadows, pulled out something. A notebook, battered, water-stained, but intact. Clearly precious. Clearly protected through 11 months of underground survival with the care you give to the most important thing you own. He held it toward me, an offer. A sharing, a connection. I took it, opened it, and what I found inside made me forget, momentarily, that I was 40 feet underground, with an injured colleague and a man holding a knife to my rope. The notebook was filled, every page, dense, precise documentation, maps drawn with careful hands, passage diagrams, temperature readings tracked over time, pressure variations noted, vent behavior cataloged, flow rates estimated, connection points identified. All of it is systematic. All of it is methodical. All of it was the work of a trained scientific mind that had been operating underground for 11 months with nothing to do except study the system it was trapped in. Perry Watts had a geology degree, I learned later. Graduate work in volcanology. He'd come to Yellowstone to study the thermal features as a private enthusiast, and when he'd fallen into this cavern, his training hadn't abandoned him, had instead given him purpose, had given him the means to not only survive, but to document, to study, to understand. The maps were remarkable. Detailed to a degree that professional geological surveys would envy. The passage network was extensive, far larger than the cavern visible from the ledge, extending hundreds of feet in multiple directions, connecting to surface features in ways that the official geological surveys had missed entirely. And on the final pages, something that made the hair on my neck stand up despite the warm geothermal air. Pressure readings. Systematic tracking of pressure variations in the vent system over 11 months. Charted, graphed, analyzed, with notes in Perry's damaged handwriting. The notes described increasing pressure month by month. Consistent upward trend. The system was being built. Accumulating, pressurizing. The geothermal features Perry had been documenting weren't stable, weren't in equilibrium, were trending towards something, were approaching a threshold that Perry's notes described with scientific precision and personal alarm. Perry. I looked up from the notebook, met his eyes. These pressure readings, the trend you've documented, how confident are you in these measurements? His expression changed again, became serious, scientific, professional. The feral man receded temporarily, and the volcanology graduate appeared. Highly confident. I've been measuring the same points using consistent methodology for 11 months. The trend is unambiguous. Pressure in the primary vent system has increased by 47% since March 2023. That's not natural variation. That's accumulation. That's build-up toward release. I said, toward release.
At the current rate, pressure reaches critical threshold in, he paused, calculating, 6 to 8 weeks. Maybe less, if surface conditions create additional loading stress. The snowpack above us is the heaviest on record. That weight is compressing the system, reducing the space available for pressure dissipation. He looked at me with sudden intensity, with recognition. You understand. I understand enough. Perry, this information needs to reach volcanologists, needs to reach researchers. Your documentation, these maps, these pressure readings, this could be critically important. Not just for the park, for the region, for everyone within the blast radius, if this system erupts, he said quietly. Yes, that's the word I've been avoiding, but yes. This notebook needs to be in the hands of people who can verify your findings, who can model the risk, who can take action if action is needed. And that means getting it to the surface. He looked at the notebook, at the rope he was still holding the knife against, at Dale against the wall, at me, processing, working through something, concluding his own logic rather than mine, which was the only way it was going to work. Which was the only conclusion that would hold. Perry, I need to ask you something, honestly, and I need an honest answer. Ask, do you want your kingdom to exist in 6 weeks? Because if the pressure builds to what you're predicting, if this system releases, there is no kingdom, there's no cavern, there's no ledge, there's no Perry Watts down here studying vents and mapping passages. There's nothing. The earth doesn't preserve what's inside it when it releases. It destroys it. You, the maps, the documentation, everything. Silence. Long silence. Just the sounds of the thermal system around us, the bubbling spring, the venting steam. The deep low vibration that I could feel in my boots. The sound of a system building towards something. The documentation would be lost, he said finally, quietly, like the thought was genuinely new. Like in 11 months of study, he'd been so absorbed in the gathering that he hadn't fully considered what would happen to the gathered if the system released. All of it, I said, unless it's out, unless it's above ground, unless it's in the hands of people who can use it. My maps, your pressure readings, your 11 months of data, the most detailed documentation of this geothermal system ever produced by anyone. Lost if you stay.
preserved if you go." He lowered the knife, not dramatically, not with ceremony, just moved it away from the rope, let it drop to his side, let the hand holding it relax, let the tension in his shoulders ease by a fraction. Just a fraction. Just enough. "I come back," he said. "After. When they've read the notebook, when they've verified the data, when they've assessed the risk, I come back. With proper equipment, with supplies, with what I need to continue the research safely. You help me come back." "I'll help you come back," I said. And I meant it. Because whatever else Perry Watts was, whatever the 11 months underground had done to him, the work he'd been doing was real. The data was real. The risk he'd identified might be real. And a man who'd survived 11 months alone in a geothermal cavern on hot spring water and lichen, who'd spent that time producing detailed scientific documentation instead of simply surviving, that man deserved to be taken seriously. Deserved to be treated with honesty. "You promise?" "I promise." He put the knife away. Wherever it came from, it went back there. And he moved toward Dale, not threateningly, the opposite. He knelt beside my colleague and examined the injured leg with hands that had clearly had medical training or medical experience. Had done this before. "Tibia," Perry confirmed. "Fractured but stable. He needs splinting and evacuation." "I have material we can use." He moved to a dark corner of the ledge and produced things. Scraps of equipment. Pieces of his destroyed gear were carefully preserved for utility. In 11 months underground, you don't waste anything that might serve a purpose. We splinted Dale's leg together, Perry and I, using Perry's salvaged materials and my emergency medical kit, working alongside each other like two professionals managing a patient. Like the knife against the rope hadn't happened, like the negotiation hadn't been necessary. Like two people who'd established enough mutual respect to work toward a shared goal. "You're good at this," I told him. Because he was. His hands were confident. His technique was sound. "Medical training," he said. "Wilderness First Responder Certification." I renewed it every 2 years. Until I stopped having years. He said it without self-pay, just as a fact, just as a data point. Dale gripped my arm. "Boone, I'm good. Let's go." The rescue team had arrived above. I could hear them. Voices, equipment, additional rope systems are being rigged. When I radioed up that we had 2 for extraction, plus an additional survivor, the response was professional silence, followed by rapid adjustment plans. That's what good rescue teams do. Adjust. Dale went first. Rope harness. Control descent. Perry and I are managing from below. Perry was strong, despite 11 months of limited nutrition. Was functional, despite the deprivation. The human body adapts, finds baseline, survives. He helped with mechanical efficiency I hadn't expected. Had clearly thought about rope systems during his time below. Had clearly worked through the mechanics of a hypothetical rescue. Then, Perry. He stood at the base of the rope, looked up at the shaft, at the circle of light above, at the surface world he hadn't seen in 11 months. His expression was complex. Fear wasn't the right word. Something more layered. Something between relief and grief. Like leaving was also a loss. Like 11 months had created an attachment that rational assessment couldn't fully override. "It'll be here when you come back," I said, and I believed it. Unless the pressure readings were correct, unless the system is released. In which case, nothing would be here, and that was exactly why we were leaving. He grabbed the rope, climbed. Perry Watts climbed out of the geothermal cavern that had held him for 11 months with the efficiency of someone who'd been maintaining physical conditioning. Had clearly been caring for a body that needed functional. I came up last, repelled into darkness, climbed back to light, emerged into Yellowstone winter, into cold air that hit like shock after the warm, sulfurous atmosphere below, into a blinding white snowscape after 40 feet of rock and steam and thermal dark. Perry stood a few feet from the hole, looking at the sky, eyes closed, face toward what pale February sun was available, doing nothing else, just receiving light. Just existing in the open air, just being above ground for the first time in 11 months. I left him to it. Some moments don't need management. Perry Watts was transported to hospital, evaluated, treated for malnutrition, vitamin deficiencies, dental deterioration, and what the psychiatric team diplomatically called prolonged isolation adaptation. He was alive, functional. His mind was intact despite its eccentricities. His body was compromised, but recoverable. He'd survive. More than survive. He'd already survived more than most people could conceive. The notebook went to the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, to USGS volcanologists, to the people whose job it is to monitor exactly the kind of activity Perry had been documenting from inside the system. Their assessment came back 6 weeks later. Verified. Perry's pressure readings were confirmed by independent measurement. The trend he documented was real. The system was building. The risk was genuine. Not imminent catastrophic eruption, Yellowstone's supervolcanic potential operates on timescales that make human prediction difficult. But the specific localized system Perry had been studying showed genuine pressure accumulation that required active monitoring and potential intervention. They credited Perry Watts in the official assessment, listed him as primary data source, acknowledged that his 11 months of systematic observation from inside the vent system had produced information obtainable by no other means, had potentially provided early warning that conventional surface monitoring would have taken years to detect. The Geological Survey team is still working a site, still measuring, still monitoring, still using Perry's maps to navigate the cavern network that he documented alone with a notebook and survival desperation and a scientific mind that refused to stop working even when the conditions were impossible. 3 months of rehab, fractured tibia and 2 cracked ribs as suspected, back on patrol by summer. We don't talk about the cavern much. Some things you experience together that don't need analysis, don't need discussion, just get filed somewhere and left there. Perry Watts. I went to see him in the hospital 3 days after extraction. He was clean, shaved, wearing hospital clothes that looked wrong on him. Looking at the ceiling of a hospital room with the expression of someone who finds ceilings inadequate, ceilings that don't vent steam, walls that don't show thermal striations, air that doesn't carry sulfur, a room that doesn't breathe. "I want to go back," he said when I walked in. No preamble, just that, "I know."
The research isn't finished. The mapping isn't complete. There are 3 passages I didn't fully document, and the pressure trend needs continued monitoring from inside the system. Surface measurements are useful, but they don't capture what's happening at the vent level. The data I can collect from below is irreplaceable. I know that too. You said you'd help me go back. I said that, and I meant it. I sat down. But going back properly, with authorization, with equipment, with communication, with a team that knows where you are, Not falling in and surviving on lichen. Actually going back. As a researcher. With support. He looked at me. Sharp eyes still. The surface world hadn't dulled them. You think that's possible? I think you produced 11 months of geological documentation that confirmed a genuine volcanic risk that the Park Service had missed entirely. I think the USGS owes you a conversation. I think you have standing that you didn't have before. I think the cavern is part of Yellowstone National Park and research access requires authorization, but authorization isn't impossible, especially for someone who already knows the system better than anyone. Perry Watts looked at the hospital ceiling, considered this, considered proper research access, considered documentation and authorization and equipment and support, considered everything that fell between surviving in a cavern and actually working in one as a scientist. Okay, he said, properly, with support, properly, with support. The USGS granted him research affiliation 3 months later, working with the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, monitoring the pressure buildup he'd first documented from inside, contributing to the assessment that eventually led to intervention measures that relieved the localized pressure accumulation before it reached the threshold he'd calculated. I kept my promise, got him back in, properly, with equipment and communication and a team that knew exactly where he was. He spent 6 weeks in the cavern system on the authorized research project, completed his maps, extended his documentation, contributed data that volcanologists described as significant. He came back up on his own this time, climbed out when the work was done, blinked in the Yellowstone summer light, looked at the sky the same way he'd looked at the February sky when we extracted him, like light was something to be received, something to be grateful for, something that mattered more after you'd been without it. He's still working the project, still monitoring, still contributing, still the person who knows the interior of that geothermal system better than anyone alive. Divided now between surface and interior, between the world above and the world below. Finding a balance that's probably different from what most people would recognize as normal but functional for him. Genuinely functional, not surviving, living. Dale and I went out to the site last month, looked at the hole. It's been secured now, covered with safety structures, warning signs. The snowmobile trail has been rerouted. The cavern below is actively monitored. The false floor that swallowed Dale and that had swallowed Perry a year before has been documented, mapped, and integrated into the park's geological understanding. The earth breathes here. Perry wasn't wrong about that. Yellowstone is alive in ways that surface visitors don't fully appreciate. It has interior systems, interior pressures, interior processes that surface maps don't capture and surface instruments don't fully reach. It hides things, not deliberately. Just because it's enormous and ancient and complex and no survey has ever fully mapped what's underneath, until Perry Watts fell through a hole in the snow and spent 11 months mapping it from the inside. I still think about what he said at the start. The mountain opens its mouth and takes you. That's how you get chosen. Feral thinking. Magical thinking. The mind constructing narrative to survive experience that doesn't have rational framework. But then I think about the notebook. About 47% pressure increase documented over 11 months. About the USGS assessment that confirmed his findings. About the intervention that addressed the buildup he'd identified. About the potential risk that was discovered and managed because one man fell through a hole and spent 11 months studying the system that held him. Maybe he was right. Maybe he was chosen, not by the mountain, not in any mystical sense, but by the same coincidence that puts the right person in the right impossible situation at the right moment to produce the right information. Chosen by circumstance, by accident, by the strange luck of survival that looks like purpose from certain angles. Boone Rider, Winter Patrol Ranger, Yellowstone National Park. Badge number current, uniform current, above ground, still reporting, still doing the job. Just with a slightly better understanding of what's underneath the snow I ride over every February, and a standing promise to a man who knows the Earth's interior, that if he needs to go back down, I'll help him do it right. properly, with support, with light, with the things that make the difference between survival and living. He's got my number. He calls sometimes, usually with pressure readings, usually with questions about access, windows, and equipment logistics and research authorization timelines. Practical things, grounded things. Once, late at night, he called with something different. Just said, "I can hear it from up here sometimes. The pressure, the movement. I can still hear it breathing." I didn't know what to say to that. So I just said, "Is that good or bad?" Long pause. "I'm not sure yet. I'll let you know." That's Perry Watts. Still studying, still listening, still somewhere between the surface world and the one below. Still the most knowledgeable person alive about what Yellowstone hides underneath the snow that snowmobiles cross every winter on the Continental Divide route. Still waiting to see whether what he hears is good or bad. And I'm waiting with him.
Friends, that was the story for today. I hope you enjoyed it and that it stayed with you in the best chilling way possible. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you. Your time and support truly mean more than you know. This channel is growing because of listeners like you. If you want more real and disturbing encounters like this, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel continue bringing these stories to life. And if this story gave you chills, let me know in the comments. I read them all, and your thoughts make this community stronger. Until next time, turn off the lights, double-check the room, and I'll see you in the next story.